What's up, everybody? Thanks for listening to the Fadam and Friends podcast. I'm your host, Adam Tiller. We are recording today from the lovely Casino Road in Everett, Washington. It's a beautiful day on Casino Road. Like always, the sun is shining and litters of unsupervised children are wandering the streets. Where their parents are, I don't know, and neither do the children. I'm headed to Chicago tomorrow for a week at Second City Theater. I'm doing an intensive course in stand-up and will be eating a lot of hot dogs. I've heard nothing but good things about the Chicago comedy scene. And also, please note that I will be gone for a week. So if anybody wants to rob me, now is probably a decent time. And shout out to Tom and Michelle and Charlotte for hooking up the trip. We got a great show for you today, but first, let's do some reads from our sponsors. Fadam and Friends is brought to you by Cure CBD Oil. Cure is a premium CBD product. Unlike others, Cure is guaranteed to help with a wide variety of ailments. Aching joints, Cure will soothe your pain. Trouble sleeping, Cure has been medically proven to regulate sleep. Finally, Cure isn't just limited to physical discomforts. Cure is fantastic for divorce. It can even prevent unemployment. And for those of you traveling to the South, use Cure to avoid that nasty generational racism and latent homosexuality. Fadam and Friends is also brought to you by Kathy's Cream Pies. Kathy Cream makes delicious homemade cream pies with the help of her husband, Rocco. Together, the two of them have experimented with flavors for over 30 years. Favorites include the blood orange cream pie or the double chocolate swirl. Sign up today for the Summer Cream Pie Special, the Blowout. 2 thick cream pies stacked directly on top of each other, all for the price of one. And remember, kids, just like Kathy always says, if there isn't a mess afterwards, you didn't enjoy yourself.
It's been a short ride, but man, it's been a crazy one. The shit we seen and overcame, and all of it has made us some hell of a bunch of kids with stories for the ages of how the hell we got here. You can read it in the pages of receipts and tweets and poems that we left along the way.
Today's guest is someone I met playing basketball at Seattle University. He's 6'2", 250 pounds, and a mountain of B.D.E. His name is Tolani Ogunyoku. Tolani has a master's degree in counseling from Seattle University. He has experience working in youth programs, correctional facilities, and rehab centers. He's worked as a program coordinator, group counselor, and clinical therapist. Recently, he was featured on a mental health panel on King 5 News in Seattle. Tolani is originally from Corona, California. He is a lifelong fan of the Houston Rockets and the NBA. He's one of the best people I know and a much better person than my brother Kyle. Tolani, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, man. This is dope.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. We've talked about this for a while. You know, it was always an idea we had, but finally got a show.
Yeah. Excited to be on the pod.
For sure. What have you been listening to lately?
You know what? The new J. Cole Dreamville album came out a couple of weeks ago, and I think I've played that 13 times in a row over the last couple of days.
Is it good?
Oh yeah, it's really good.
I didn't even know it dropped.
Most of the rap that comes out now, I have literally no idea like who these people are or what they're about. It makes me feel very old every single time.
Yeah. Just have to go to the iTunes like top hits.
And every single time it's like little so-and-so, little scrappy lappy. I'm just like, I don't know, man. So I'm still playing the same records. I'm still playing Talib Kweli's 1998 album.
Yeah.
Or listening to Bachelorette podcast in the gym while I'm trying to deadlift.
What are you listening to for pods? Like, just what are your top 3 to 5?
Bachelor Party podcast, going over everything. It's on the Ringer, going over everything around like the Bachelor, Bachelorette, Bachelor in Paradise, because it's the type of stuff that I do. Love the Rewatchable podcast on the Ringer too,
nice.
Going over like old movies and stuff like that. And who is it? Malcolm Gladwell's podcast, Revisionist History. Just started listening to that too.
Have you listened to his other one, the one with Rick Rubin?
No.
It's really, really good. He goes over different kind of old records.
Okay.
And it's cool because they blend music and podcast together, so they'll talk about an album and then play a piece of the recording. So it's pretty sick.
Gladwell, he seems like a very quirky dude, but like at the same time, just a genius.
Yeah,
he really makes you think about like anything that he brings up and talks about.
I saw him at MIT.
Really?
At the Sloan Sports Analytics Conference.
Okay, yeah.
And
that's like nerd Super Bowl right there.
Yeah, it was. I got to see Phil Jackson too, so like those two were the top two. But Gladwell interviewed Adam Silver.
Okay.
And it was one of the best interviews I've ever seen.
Silver's probably shaking in his boots. It's like, Gladwell's going to expose me.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of questions about the Knicks.
Yeah.
Like a lot of questions about the Knicks.
2021, here we go.
Yeah. We'll see. Do you think Durant's going there?
No one's going there.
You don't think
that,
so?
No one ever. If you're a Knicks fan out there, like just stop, man. Like no one's ever going to your team. The best you've gotten in the last 30 years is Melo and Amari. Like it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. They're trying to aim for 2 years from now. Like, oh, we're going to get Gobert. We're going to get Giannis. It's like, no, man. Like you're not.
Giannis in New York would be the best thing for Giannis from a PR standpoint. But
I don't know. He seems pretty dang famous already as is.
But can you imagine like just jersey sales and like for his international image?
I don't know if that guy is built that same way. He's a guy who grew up in Greece, dirt poor.
No.
He probably looks at Milwaukee like this might as well be Beverly Hills.
I love Giannis. I love like everything about Giannis, but one thing I think his weakness is he's so naive. Like he has no idea like the fact that just being in Milwaukee is really not great for his career. But if he wants to win championships, there's that pros and cons thing. Like Lillard staying in Portland, he loves the team. He's gonna probably
loves that town, man. I was there the year that the Warriors won 73-9, and one of the games they lost was in Portland that year, and Dame went off.
Yeah, I made some money on that game.
I was out with my buddy after the game, after we watched it. We're at some club, and Dame just walks in this club that we were in.
Jesus!
And I'm sitting here like, this is the biggest win of your guys' season.
Yeah.
Why are we next to each other?
No, it's crazy.
I didn't pay to get into this club, and now we're just sharing this same space. Like, I think that guy really loves that city. I think Giannis really loves Milwaukee. He's like, there's food here and a basketball court. Like, I don't need much else.
What do you think of Dame's rap?
Dame's all right, man. Dame's
like
good. Dame's if Dame was any other person other than a basketball player, I don't think people would judge his rap as harshly.
Yeah, that's
but
probably
because
true.
He's a basketball player, it's like, well, basketball players can't rap. Like, no, like Shaq couldn't rap. Like Kobe couldn't rap.
There's a lot of things Shaq couldn't do.
Kobe couldn't rap. But
he can't even do a commercial well. Oh, like that. Those Icy Hot commercials are uncomfortable to watch.
He's still slanging all that stuff. Like people want Shaq in their stuff, but like Dame is nice. Him and Bagley going back and forth at each other. I'm like, those sound like two legitimate rappers.
Yeah, yeah. I actually just like pretty much everything about Dame. He really seems like he's a basketball player first.
Oh yeah,
and doesn't really care about any of the bullshit besides that.
He single-handedly destroyed OKC's basketball team with one 50-foot shot step back. Like,
so crazy.
That entire team has been dismantled after that shot. So he's one of those solid dudes. But yeah, like back to Giannis, I think he's just happy to play basketball, man. Like if Milwaukee wins a title, he's like, I don't need to go anywhere. Like I got everything I need right here.
And they're a good team. Like, and anybody that's betting on futures for the NBA, like you got to look at the path to getting to the finals, and Milwaukee's got to have the easiest path, right?
Oh, easily.
Because it's going to be Brooklyn that they have to play
next 2 years from now, not even next year.
I mean, how long is the Achilles?
He won't play next year.
He won't?
No.
I thought he would potentially be back for the playoffs.
Oh, but they tried that already, right? And his Achilles ruptured on live television. Like, so they're out for next year. Basically, them, Milwaukee, and Philadelphia will be the two teams. Like Boston, that's not going to cut it. Like
Toronto's still going to be decent, but they're
not going to be a title contender.
No.
And then Philly, I mean, as long as Ben Simmons, people say Ben Simmons can't shoot. Like, that's not true. Ben Simmons won't shoot, and there's a huge difference. Like, if you won't shoot, then people don't have to guard you. Like,
why doesn't he shoot then?
He must be really bad at it. That's my.
Well, doesn't that mean he can't shoot?
I don't know. I haven't seen him.
I've seen videos of him shooting threes and making them, but for whatever reason
That's
he doesn't.
CGI though. Like you can't.
Yeah, they just
stuff.
It's like the Bieber compilation.
Yeah, you can't trust that type of stuff. But like if you are a guy on a basketball court and you refuse to shoot it,
that's
like,
my game.
Yeah, people just look at you differently. Like you have to. I'm not a great shooter, but I'll shoot a couple just so you think I can.
Yeah,
and
it's
real
an
upset.
options thing. Like,
oh yeah,
so you have three options, right? Dribble, pass, or shoot.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're only going to do two of those things, you don't have to guard the person the same way.
Exactly.
And that's why it's hard for me.
Yeah, I'll put up a couple of threes. And when I undoubtedly miss them, I'll get real upset. Like, I was killing that this week,
Yeah.
Just so people still
Just
think
so people
I can
buy
shoot.
it.
Oh yeah, once I get to like 0 to 10, they're like, okay, I think
Yeah,
this guy's full of
just
shit.
get back in the paint. Okay, so let's get into some of the questions I got for you.
Okay.
You grew up loving the Houston Rockets.
Yes, sir.
But you're from California.
Yeah.
Why Houston?
Yeah, that's weird, right? So I'm Nigerian. So one of the first basketball games I went to was a Kings-Rockets game. And at the time, I don't think I even cared about basketball when I was a kid. The only thing I cared about was legit my Nintendo. Like everything else in my life was secondary to that Nintendo.
Yeah.
And then found out, like at the time, so this was Akeem, this was right before that first championship year. I was like, who's this guy?
Hakeem Olajuwon.
Oh yeah, I was like, who's this? Like, he is a monster.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, he's like Nigerian basketball player. I was like, oh, he's my favorite basketball player then. and just like that.
Yeah.
This is again at the peak of Jordan. All these other like fun teams in the league. Like Houston wasn't necessarily a fun team at the time. Like no one grew up wanting to be a 7-foot center. Like everyone wanted to be Jordan or be Magic.
Yeah.
And I saw Akeem. I was like, that is exactly who I want to be.
Was it because he was good or just purely because he was Nigerian?
Both.
Okay.
Both.
But if he was bad, do you think you would have just been that kid?
No,
that was
I mean, I don't like
rocking the Hakeem
Michael
jersey?
little candy jerseys. I don't think there's a lot of Nigerian kids growing up wishing to be the candy man.
Yeah.
And it was definitely a combination of the two. Like
I
he was
forgot that nickname.
Yeah, he was so good and so unique in so many ways. Because I mean, he wasn't a big guy, he wasn't an overpowering guy, but so skillful.
His footwork.
It was
dirty.
It was out of control back then. If you sit back and watch those highlights, I mean, he was running through the league like Robinson, Shaq, Ewing, Barkley. He was just dominating people. Yeah. So from that moment, I was like, okay, now I like basketball. And they won the championship the next year. So I was like, oh, now I love basketball. Like, this is perfect. And then they won the championship the year after. I was like, oh, this is what my life is going to be like. The Rockets are going to be winning titles every year now that I'm a fan. And
you're
then
just talking shit in like the
third
grade,
fourth grade, maybe. Just like living in Southern California, just like, oh, your team's trash. It's like, but people have been discounting those championships. Like, well, Jordan wasn't around. It's like, I don't care.
Like, a win's a win.
Yeah, you can't take down those banners.
Yeah.
So even since then, every jersey or every team I've been on, like I've worn number 34. Like there's no question. Like
I didn't realize that.
I don't want any other number. Like anything I have is always 34.
Out of curiosity, you said you loved Nintendo prior to that. Mm-hmm. What were you playing prior to
my God.
Like sports games?
I mean, a lot of Super Mario Brothers for sure. Like I took a lot of pride in that. I did play a little bit of double dribble, a little was it Major League Baseball? A little bit of that. Contra, I mean, obviously. Like I took a lot of pride in like my ability to like beat my little brother in any of those games. Was it track meet with a little pad you had to run on?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that thing used to be, that was like the first CrossFit if people really think about it. Like you invite a bunch of people into your house, you get a lot really sweaty and you're jumping around acting like a fool. Like that was like the first CrossFit.
Poor man's Dance Revolution.
Yeah. But at the time, I mean, we thought we were like living like kings. I mean, like we had a Nintendo.
Yeah, it's crazy how those games like today, everything's like playing against other people and online. And I don't play video games anymore because I like having sex with girls. And those old games, they were all like memorization. Like you play like Super Mario Brothers 3 where you get like the feather cap and you can fly and stuff. You just memorize the levels, and there was something nice about the repetition of it. But if you try and play that shit now,
oh no,
it's annoying almost.
It's nostalgic for the first
level.
Yeah, first couple of minutes. You're like, oh, I remember this.
Yeah, the music.
And then the music, all that stuff brings that nostalgia back. Then 3 minutes later, like, I don't know, man. Is Game of Thrones on? Like, can we do something else?
Nothing or anything besides that.
Yeah, this is super boring.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to do any of this anymore.
Super funny. So, next question then, going off of basketball stuff. When I met you, you had hops. Like, you could jump.
Oh, yeah. This is many moons ago.
Yeah. When was the last time you could dunk in a game?
Oh, man.
Or you did dunk in a game?
Oh, I remember vividly just because I miss it so much. So when I met you, I think I was 27 at the time. And just at the, I think, peak physically. Like, I was able to lift for hours at a time and then go play basketball afterwards.
And you didn't even realize it, right?
No,
like
I
at
took it for
27,
granted.
yeah.
I took it for granted for sure.
Because I just turned 30. I'm starting to like just get sore at weird times. Like I was playing basketball yesterday. I'm like, my hips hurt, and I don't want to get back on defense anymore.
That sounds about right. You're going into that next stage of basketball
where you just have to get smarter because you're too lazy.
I feel like a poor man's Dwayne Wade now on the court. Like I can't jump, but I can like smack the ball out of your hand when you're not looking.
Yeah, and
I can trick a ref into giving me a call. Like I'm doing all that stuff.
The
now.
Reach around.
Oh yeah,
when somebody blows by you.
Oh yeah, I'm great at all that stuff.
You've been able to do that since I met you.
Yeah, and the thing is too, I'm a look the part all-star, so I know I just automatically get a couple of points stepping onto the court.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember the first time I dunked and the last time I dunked in a game. First time was summer before my junior year. Dunked that morning or that afternoon in practice. My first like clean dunk. And I was like, oh my God, like this is the first step in me getting to the NBA. Like I dunk now. I'm getting drafted in 3 years. And we had a game later on that day at Corona High School against Marietta High School. Off the tip, lost the tip. Other team's coming down. I steal the ball, and on a fast break, headed towards probably the north end of the gym, like dunk it in a game, first bucket. And I remember running down court and just like, it's nothing. Internally, I was having like I was planning my draft party internally.
Did you have any good like contested dunks?
Oh yeah. Like there's one game after I graduated, still playing on my travel team. So all the other guys are going into their senior year, and I'm about to enter freshman year of college. But I'm still playing with those guys, and played against some team, and they had a 7-footer on the team.
Sean
Bradley-esque for sure. But 7-foot kids in high school are mostly just awful. They're just mostly just 7-foot kids, and they're not super athletic. But I blew by this guy going baseline and dunked and won on this 7-foot kid. And at that time, again, I was like, dude, maybe I should reclassify for the draft. Like, I can obviously do this very well. I can't shoot. I'm not that quick, but
did you ever have a situation where your legs like got on somebody's shoulders and you had to like hang there?
I'd never jumping that high, but I've dunked on a handful of people, and each time you're thinking like, God, you can just take me now. Like life isn't going to get too much better than this. And I've always thought, I was like, man, like dunking and being good at basketball, like I'm probably going to get like super famous or a girlfriend because of this. And like none of those things, it ever helped.
Speaking of girlfriends, I just want to mention this. So you just got engaged.
Yes, indeed.
And
Shout out to Mia.
Yeah, Mia. Thanks for listening. The first time I saw Mia at one of our games, it was down in Seattle. And I think it was the first game that you'd ever brought her to.
Okay, yeah.
And your energy on the court.
Oh, it's way different.
Was so different in this game. And at one point, you were on offense. You took the ball from the top of the key, and you took like one dribble, and you tried to dunk it. And it was one of the worst attempts I've ever seen.
I was really trying to impress her. It's like one of those, like, it's basically almost like a first date. Like,
yeah.
Again, in my head, I'm thinking, if I do this very well, this girl's going to really like me.
And you sold it so hard because somebody made contact, and you just screamed.
Oh, yeah.
And there was no way you were getting anywhere.
No, but she doesn't know that. She just sees us like, oh, my God, I saw LeBron do something similar. Did I go on a date with LeBron?
I'm sure that's exactly what she was thinking.
And now when she comes and watches the games, I'm just like, babe, I don't give a shit. Like, you know how old and slow I am. Like, I don't need to impress you with this.
I just remember that was when your knees had started kind of bugging you.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
What is he doing?
And that's what things will creep up on you. So back to like the last time I dunked in a game. This is pathetic that I remember this so vividly. But 2016 February, Seattle Central. There's the two courts when you walk in. So the court to the left, like towards the end of the game, fast break, get up and dunk it. And again, internally, I'm exploding. Like, yes, I can still do this. And then no one else cares.
Not at all.
Like, no one's like, oh, yeah, man, like, you barely got the ball in the rim. Like, congrats. And good thing.
A layup may have been more impressive.
Like, you're 6'2". Like, no one's super impressed, man. Like,
That's
you're not
super
5'.
funny,
You're not
though.
5'5". But that was the last time. But I'll say, if like Akeem was in the building one day, just happened to randomly show up at Seattle Central in our pickup games, I think I can get an in-game dunk.
You think so?
Yeah, and I think I would just hope he would just adopt me after that. Like, he would just he would just say, "Okay, you've made it. Come on home."
Yeah.
But that was the last time, man. Like, I'm still exercise, still play ball, still can mentally do it, but like physically, I can't. And you know what? I don't need to. I'm about to be 35 in a couple of months. Like, I think my draft stock is at probably the lowest it's been. So.
I don't know. I mean, there's overseas still.
Yeah.
That Marbury contract.
Yeah, if there's any. If the Shanghai Sharks want to sign me to a 10-day, I'll be there tonight.
I think we all would. So, next question. The NBA has been insane.
Crazy.
What's
it's like
been
2K basically at this point.
It is. What's been the biggest surprise to you that's happened?
You kind of have to say the whole Kawhi business.
Mm-hmm.
Not the fact that he just left, because I think you can probably see the writing on the wall that he left. But that he left and then somehow Jedi mind tricked OKC and the Clippers to give him Paul George on top of that. Like, the Clippers have been like a running joke as long as I remember basketball. And then in one night, 2 a.m, it's like, oh, okay, Kawhi's coming and Paul George.
That's Jerry West right there.
Jerry West, like, I don't know. That guy, isn't he like 1,000? Like, how is he still?
It's weird.
How is he still doing this? And
I think he's like, people talked about Pat Riley for so long about how great he is as a
he's just handsome
mastermind.
He's just handsome. That's all it is.
He knew how to sell like the right things to dumb players. Like he sold South Beach to Shaq. That's not a hard sell. Like, what do you think he sold Shaq on?
Yeah, is if you're in your early 20s,
the
early
family
30s,
environment of South Beach, Miami, probably not.
You're very rich and single. Should probably come to South Beach.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you don't want to stay in Oklahoma? Yeah, come to South Beach instead.
Yeah.
So the Clippers have completely flipped it on its head. And the funny thing is, people in LA, they're still second-class citizens. Like, they're still behind the Lakers, the Dodgers, the Galaxy, UCLA, USC. There's really no, like, Clippers fans out there. I mean, there's a handful. Look at that kid from, like, Malcolm in the Middle and Billy Crystal.
Yeah.
And Clipper Darrell are basically
I think it
entire
might
fan
change,
base.
though. I mean, with
It didn't change.
I guess
it didn't change during Lob City when the Lakers were trouting out like Robert Sacre and and Kelly and Jordan Clarkson. It didn't even change then. Like, it's not going to change now.
Here's a question for you though, and I was thinking about this when this happened. Do you remember any time in NBA history where a star player has gone to a team, won a championship, and then left the next year, like at the prime time of their career?
I can maybe Kareem, but I guess maybe Kareem in Milwaukee, but I guess he started with Milwaukee. I don't think it's ever happened.
There's a lot of Kawhi jerseys that are just of no use to anyone in Toronto.
I would say, though, the people in Toronto, like, you have to be happy about that outcome.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you got a parade.
Did you expect that outcome?
No one did.
I mean,
no one did, right? Like, no one was talking about Kawhi as if he was Michael Jordan at the beginning of the playoffs. Like, when they lost that first game to Orlando, it was like, oh, here we go. Like, Orlando or Toronto's going to drop the ball again. But you would trade that. I would trade it 100 times out of 100. If we signed Anthony Davis and it meant we'd win a title and the next 10 years we'd suck, I'm like, sweet. Yeah. Sign me up for that title.
I'm curious, though, because they still have a lot of just supporting pieces.
Oh, yeah.
So, I don't... Masai's good. Masai Ujiri.
Yeah.
He's a smart guy. I think Toronto will be fine. Or
they'll be competitive, but they're not going to win a title.
No.
So, like, for what Kawhi did to go from San Antonio to Toronto to the Clippers in 3 years, it's really unheard of. And speaking of unheard of, like, that's Kawhi. Like, no one knows what he's thinking, what he wants to do, and maybe that's the lesson to be learned. Like, don't post anything.
Yeah,
don't
I haven't
have
liked
your agent say anything. Just do it, and you can probably get away with it and have it be a lot more successful than if you like put it out there to the masses.
I don't love how people just shit on him because, you know, he went under the radar for a while and people wanted a story and they weren't hearing anything. And the way the Spurs spun it, Kawhi was an asshole. I don't know where the truth is. I'm sure it's somewhere in the middle, but I didn't hate what he did. He kind of did what he needed to do, but didn't do it in a super public, extravagant way.
You know what? It worked. Everything he did, like, it worked.
How'd the Spurs do this year?
Exactly. It worked to a T what he planned out. And I think people get mad because they don't know what he's thinking or don't know what he's going to do. And all these sports guys hate that. Like, I need some scoop. I need to go on first take.
The PR people.
I need to go on first take and spill out something. And Kawhi's just like, nah, man. Like, I'm just doing my thing.
Is it a surprise that somebody wouldn't want to talk to Stephen A. Smith?
that is like legit. I'd rather watch 24 straight hours of uncut Keeping Up with the Kardashian footage than 30 minutes of First Take. I just can't do it.
There's more to look at least.
I cannot do that show. It's professional wrestling, and you know what? A lot of people love professional wrestling, so I get it, but I can't. I just can't.
It's a different topic, but do you remember when SportsCenter just showed you what happened in the games?
Oh, yeah.
And it was really fucking good.
Yeah.
It was all the sports that you didn't get a chance to watch. And you're like, oh, okay, well, the Buffalo Sabres played last night. I don't really give a shit about them, but I guess I'm going to watch
highlights.
Yeah.
I got 30 seconds to watch these highlights.
I want to see sports. I don't want to see what some guy in North Carolina has to say about, you know, a college football recruit that got in trouble for banging his dorm mate. That was a dude.
The whole thing switched up. I don't know when, but I remember waking up with my brothers.
It was when it went live.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was. Like, waking up with my brothers. Remember the first thing? Boom, SportsCenter. And you know what? It's the same exact SportsCenter we watched last night. Boom. We're gonna watch it again, and when that's over, we're gonna watch the same SportsCenter right after that. And that is all we really needed. But now is there a SportsCenter now? Like, I wouldn't.
It seems like the SVP one, they do a better job showing highlights versus like he has his segments where there's narratives, but they're at least well thought out.
Yeah.
And I mean, he'll interview good people. When it's the morning shit, it's just, I don't even know what they're doing. They've combined like these shitty talk show radio things into TV, which makes TV worse. And when they started recording like Mike and Mike in the morning, like who wants to look at those two guys?
Well,
for
it's
3 hours?
a very specific crowd, right? Because I mean, that show starts 6 a.m. Eastern.
Yeah.
Like it's made for that population who's up at 6 a.m. Eastern on the East Coast.
I think that demographic would be degenerate gambler.
Yeah, right.
Like,
so yeah,
he didn't sleep because he bet the rent away last night on the Bills game.
Thought they were going to cover the 2.5. Like, damn it. Yeah, I think those shows have their place and people like them, but like, yeah, like just give me some highlights and I'm generally pretty good.
So we talked about the Rockets a little bit. What the fuck are they doing?
Westbrook. I'll tell you, when I first heard that trade, my initial response was, no, this is what is Morey doing? And legit, maybe an hour and a half later, I'm like, championship. I was like, we're going all the way this year.
Do you think Westbrook fits the team better than CP3?
No, but he's better. Like, he doesn't fit the team better, but he's a much better player than Chris Paul. Just in a vacuum. System-wise, no. Like,
why not?
Westbrook can't shoot threes well. He doesn't shoot free throws well. And that's exactly the two things the Rockets value. Like, you either have to be able to shoot threes and free throws. That's the thing you want to do.
I watched a lot of Westbrook. One thing that he does really well is getting to the basket and kicking it out.
Yes.
And a lot of the guys on OKC got really good looks as a result of that.
But they can't shoot.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the fact that he makes that pass, I think, is what Morey liked.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm guessing what Daryl Morey likes, but
It has a potential, and I agree with you. If Westbrook can be the guy who just breaks down the defense, getting to the hoop, and if he's kicking it out to James Harden, who's now open, instead of dribbling it 38 times and taking a pull up.
Do you really think he's going to be playing with James Harden? Because my guess is they stagger the minutes.
They'll stagger him for sure, but there are going to be parts where they're on the court together to start the game, start the half, and to end the game will be when they're on the floor together. But if Westbrook is going against backup point guards, like it's a wrap. Like he can still. I mean, he won't average.
Think he can get past Raymond Felton?
He won't average a triple-double anymore because Capella won't be just volleyballing him rebounds to get his numbers up. But the team, that's the thing, the Rockets have the potential just because we're really the only team, I say we like I'm on the team. We're really the only team who's coming back with the same team other than the Nuggets. And the Nuggets, nobody's worried about the Nuggets. We're the only team really coming back with the same team.
Yeah.
So like we're already
that continuity.
Yeah, I mean that counts for something. So we'll probably finish 1 or 2 in the West. I can see.
I
that
can
won't
see
that won't do too much for the playoffs. I can also see us, getting bounced in the second round, and me just promising to give up sports forever after I get my heart broken again.
The West is going to be. I mean, I don't even know what the point of watching the East is this year. It's going to be a bloodbath just getting to the finals.
Oh, yeah. There's a good chance a team like even Golden State might be a 6th seed, which is insane. And the Rockets will probably be the 3 seed, and we'll play them and get swept.
Who do you like to win the title, though?
If I had to bet my own money on it right now, honestly, I'd probably say the Lakers, and that pains me. That pains me deeply to say because I hate the Lakers. But LeBron has one more good year in him, and the team that they have now won't be the team they have come February.
Yeah.
They're going to end up finding someone, trading someone, and their team will get better. And LeBron has, I think, one more good run. People act like the Clippers are going to be this unstoppable force. Kawhi is good for sure. Like what has Paul George done in the playoffs again? I don't remember.
The thing that I like about them, and people never give equal weight to this is those two guys defensively.
Oh yeah,
are just having the two of them out there. That's two of the best perimeter defense players that are.
But they don't have a guy to guard Anthony Davis, and I think that's going to be the problem in the West. Like, there's a lot of perimeter oriented, wing oriented guys.
But who does Anthony Davis kick the ball out to when he's double teamed?
I mean,
nobody shoots well on the Lakers. So unless they get that
Kuz?
third guy.
Also, I'll say, I think that guy is coming. I think that guy, the guy who can
Who's
just
the guy?
shoot.
Is it like a Lowry? Is it a?
I can see like pulling off something for like a JJ Redick come February. Like,
yeah,
just
but
doing
that's not
something.
enough. Like, they need a third star player.
I don't know if even star, because a lot of like
CJ McCollum could be a decent.
That would be. I don't know how they'd pull CJ out of the hat.
They have all that cap space, right? Because they
use it to sign up all the guys like the JaVales, the DeMarcuses, the Rondos. So they
can move all those guys.
They definitely can. Like, I think they have enough as is. 'Cause, I mean, people forget LeBron had missed the second half of last year, so people just like, well, LeBron's trash. Like, LeBron took Rodney Hood, Jordan Clarkson, Tristan Thompson to the finals the year before.
It's just, to me, it's not a matter of is LeBron good or not. The equalizers, if you don't have to guard the extra guy because you're only concerned about two guys on the court, it doesn't matter how good those two guys are. They have to have an option or else it changes the dynamic of the game. And both those guys are inside dominant players.
Yeah.
But Anthony Davis can shoot outside.
And Boogie can shoot a little bit. Like, who knows what type of shape he'll be in. But, like, I think they'll find a way to get, like, a Mike Miller type. Just someone who can shoot. Like, J.R. Smith, no. Like, he can't come back for another round. But they'll find someone who can just shoot.
Perimeter athleticism. Like, if Jimmy Butler could shoot outside, he probably would be a really good option because he can handle the ball. He ran the offense for Philly.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
He's just not a consistent three-point shooter.
Again, he's in Miami. He's good. Like, that's the lesson learned from Miami. He's like, oh, Jimmy, you're 30 and single. Perfect. We have the perfect location for you.
I'm trying to think. Who did Philly pick up too? Oh,
Al Horford. And
that's going to be
Josh
a weird
Richardson.
look.
As people think, like, oh, they're going to be so tall and long. I was like, well, again, Ben Simmons still can't shoot, won't shoot. Like, they still don't have a true point guard. People keep saying Ben Simmons is a point guard. It's like, no, he just brings the ball up. Like, he's a 6'10" power forward who's fast. Like, but
he's got good passing ability in the open court, though.
So he's like a fast Kevin McHale. Like, he still can't actually shoot the ball. Like, their team's going to be interesting.
It's going to be a weird
But
one.
I also think they're going to struggle scoring a lot. Like, I don't think Horford's really good. He's really solid, but
he spreads the court. The problem with Butler is it was too much of what you already had. Like, he's a mid-range, get to the basket, free throw guy.
I'd rather would have kept Butler and shipped Ben Simmons.
Same.
Yeah, I mean,
I just think you have too much of one thing, and the good teams have that diversity in different ways to score.
Yeah,
and different ways to defend. But
with Philly, 10 seconds down 2, who has the ball? Tobias Harris? I'm like, okay, if that's your best option, down 2, looking for a win, like, that's going to be a tough look because you can't post up Embiid with 10 seconds left on the block. Like, that's just not how it works. So it has to go to a guy like Tobias Harris
that can create for himself.
And he's not the best at that. No. So I don't know how that team's going to actually end up winning a lot of games.
I just wonder if back to the Lakers, like, somebody on one of these smaller market teams that's a guard, like a Devin Booker type, they'll take a chance on so that they can have that extra level just to take some of the workload. I mean, obviously that team is in the top 3 to 4, but that's on the assumption that these two guys are going to stay healthy, that have both, one's old and one's dealt with issues or injury issues his entire career.
I think they'll end up slow playing it. Like, I don't think they care if they're the 1 seed or the 7 seed. Like those guys will play, 70 games, 65 games this entire year, and they're just looking for that push in the playoffs because LeBron can turn it on come April.
And it's not like home court will matter if they're playing the Clippers. They probably did the math on that pretty quick. They're like, oh.
Well, the thing is that people don't realize, like, when you go to a Clippers game because you can't afford to see your favorite team play the Lakers. So most people at Clippers game, if it's the Clippers Warriors games, that crowd's 70% Golden State. Clippers Knicks, that crowd's 70% Knicks fans. Like there's not a real
crazy,
a real large host of Clippers fans like dying to get into the arena.
I wonder, it'll be interesting to see how this changes that. I think it'll be enough to...
If they win a title, it will start to change. If they're just good, no one's falling for that again.
You know it better than I do.
You go down there, like, and there's Lakers flags. People have, like, the Lakers flags on their car, and every time I see one of those cars, I'm like, man, I hope you just hit a red light on the way home. But like it will again, even during Lob City, like people are super pumped about Lob City. That was an exciting time in basketball, and people still didn't care like that. No one's switching allegiances from the Lakers to the Clippers, even if the Clippers win the title.
I wonder if that says something about the Clippers or about how terrible people are in LA.
Probably a little both. Probably a little both. There'll still be plenty of people at the Clippers parade, but no one's people pull up in their Kobe jerseys still.
Yeah. God, there's still those Kobe murals like all over the city too.
Kobe stands are some of the most, it's like probably the Bayhive and then like Kobe stands like right underneath it. Like you can't have a conversation with someone who's a Kobe fan about anything.
No.
You tell them, like, Tim Duncan was actually better statistically, record-wise. Like,
and he didn't rape someone.
Yeah, like, trophies, like, never got in trouble, like, never tried to demand a trade. He was actually better. Like, no, man, Kobe 81.
He was a Mamba.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, you're right, man. He had 81 points that game.
Against the Raptors.
Yeah, and he was still a pretty awful teammate.
Oh. Always. Let's pivot a little bit. I wanted to talk to you about your work. You've worked in the mental health field for several years now. You want to talk a little bit about how you got into it and, some of the things that have surprised you so far?
Yeah. So got into it when I got back from Korea in 2012. I knew I came back with the intention on going to grad school. Ended up in Seattle U knowing that, like, okay, this is what I wanted to do. I think as a kid, I was like, okay, I want to be a teacher because I want to, like, help people in that way.
And that's what you did in Korea.
Yeah, taught there. But I realized I was like, actually, I don't want to teach. Like, that's not the environment I want to see myself in. So I was like, okay, counseling is going to be that next thing. So got into it that way and figured it was almost an easy decision. It's one of those things I joke with people. I'm like, I'm not good at anything else. So like I didn't have a ton of options. I wasn't like a math whiz or a computer programmer or anything like that. Like this is the one thing I was actually meant to do.
You could dunk against Marriott High.
Yeah, you know what? If the basketball thing worked out, who knows? It could have been a whole different type of pod.
10-day contracts, just a couple days away.
So got into the field, got into grad school 2012, and I think the thing that's maybe surprised me the most working is just like how much of a need like mental health is for folks. It's one of those things that it's not talked about. It's still really stigmatized, especially among men. Like, hey, you're having some issues. Like, who do you go see or what do you do? It's that whole mentality of like, well, you don't do anything, man. You figure out your own problems, like buck up. And in actuality, there's so many people out there like struggling. Like you think a city like Seattle, very affluent, very progressive, all these things. And there's, like literally hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people in the city who need mental health services, who are struggling from anything from like addiction, anxiety, depression. And I think in a way it's refreshing that the people that I do see that are willing to like take that extra step to go get some help.
I mean, you helped me quite a bit. like about a year and a half ago. I had done some counseling early on in life, and then, I was struggling and got some help. And I would say there's not anyone that wouldn't benefit from some mental health counseling.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even if you don't have issues with anxiety, like there's that stigma around it, like, oh, you're screwed up, you need help. Like, everybody has some trauma in their life. Everybody's dealt with an asshole that slayed them. Everybody's been an asshole at times. And it's a way to understand yourself better, understand society better, and how you fit in, and like being okay with yourself in a healthy way. Not like, I mean, there's so many people that have substance abuse issues that like, I think a lot of it is just driven by other problems. And then they're like, the only solution is to go to AA or go to, NA or whatever. But it's, if you don't deal with those underlying traumas.
Exactly.
And I don't have anything against 12-step programs. It's just sometimes you're not dealing with the root issue.
Yeah.
And people, like, 12-step programs were created by people that needed 12-step programs. They weren't created by people with strong understanding of the human mind and everything that goes into that. So it's not a bad thing to have a support group.
Yeah.
But it is kind of good to really understand what the fuck is going on.
Well, I think I think working in like the addictions field in the past, like I've seen like the 12-step community like really save people's lives. So like that stuff is great. And I always tell people, like, whatever's going to work, do it.
Yeah.
Like if hitting some meetings and working the steps is going to help you, like, let's do that thing, or let's figure out what can actually help you. Like, and to your point about like kind of figuring out like the root causes of things and the stigma around mental health, like we don't treat our mental health like we treat any other parts of our body. Like,
it doesn't make any sense.
We see the dentist twice a year. You see a doctor often. You'll always do those types of checkups. But not to check up on like on your brain and your emotions is kind of, it's silly.
Doesn't make any sense at all.
And that's why I always tell people, like, take care of your mental health as often as you take care of brushing your teeth. Like,
dude, it impacts so much of our everyday life without any awareness of it. Like, if you just look at social media and Instagram and stuff, like, there's so much just narcissism that happens as a result of these new tools, and people having that fear of missing out, people
comparing yourself to these other people that you see,
like just the general not having your phone on you creates anxiety. And there's so many new stimulus that have come in, or stimuli, that we haven't even thought about and how it affects us.
And that's the thing, like, and there really won't be too many studies done like for a few more years, and that really affects even children too, right? Because like, well, how is this affecting kids? We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out 10 years from now.
It could be smoking 30 years ago. Like the cell phone might be the cigarette, and none of us know it. And we just know that we haven't checked.
I mean, I haven't checked my phone in the last 30 minutes. I'm actually a little freaking out.
Yeah,
I don't know if Woj dropped a Woj bomb on us since we've started this podcast. But yeah, it's interesting, like, just how many people are so opposed, maybe too strong of a word, but to even to go and getting some help. And it's one of those things that, like, if people really knew how many people did it, or this idea like, well, my problems are just my problems, or my problems aren't big enough, or my problems aren't as big as that guy's problems. Like, it doesn't matter, man. Like, these are stuff that you're struggling with. Like, it's so important to go and like get some help. And
one thing I think people don't talk about enough is how much it works.
Yeah.
Like,
right?
It really, really works.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of your problems can go away if you start understanding why you're having these problems.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of them are self-imposed.
Yeah.
That you just haven't dealt with something, like you're 25 years old and you're dealing with crazy bullshit. And you don't even know why.
I think that's a great point. Like, just the fact that like it works. Like, if you go and see someone, like, it can work for you. And like when clients say that, like, oh, like this has been really helpful, or oh, hey, you have helped me, like that's the type of stuff that like gets me out of bed in the mornings. Like that's amazing. And like, yeah, like even myself seeing therapists in the past, I'm like, yeah, man, I'm really glad. I'm really glad I came in here. Like I feel better. My
Just
life has an opportunity to feel better.
Just generally too, like I know everybody's in different situations, but what's a good starting place if somebody wants to get counseling services? For what's like a good website for them to go to? I mean, if they have insurance.
I think something even like, well, one, just even calling your insurance carrier is probably like the step number one. So if you have your insurance carrier, just calling them and asking like, hey, I'm interested in seeing like a mental health care provider. Like, who are we contracted with? Or if you have insurance, calling even your primary care provider and saying, hey, can you refer me to mental health counseling services? And these things are all basically automated. Like, okay, you need to see someone, boom, here's this phone number or here's this list.
In certain insurance, like the first 5 sessions are covered, right?
It depends on what your insurance and stuff is, but like I know even through my employer, like my first, I think I had 10 sessions in a year that were all covered for free.
Yeah.
So again,
and then when it's not covered, it's the copay is like $10.
It's definitely affordable, and there's places even through like Psychology Today, which is a website which you can kind of, it's almost like a dating website for psychologists. You can find someone so you can be seen. But even places like that, people still provide sliding scales so you can get seen. There's a lot of community-run agencies who see people without insurance or see people on Medicaid and Medicare. There's opportunities out there, but again, that's one of the issues sometimes with finding a therapist. Like maybe you or myself could get on the phone and navigate all these things pretty easily based on like our own levels of education and how we grew up. But there's other people who maybe don't have that same experience, and you're trying to navigate through these spaces, and it can get frustrating. I think that's maybe one of the tougher parts, like working in this field, seeing that sometimes are some of the barriers in getting those services. Because like if I get a phone call or I call someone, they say, hey, call this other number. I call that number. Oh, no, you need to call this person on Tuesday. I'm like, okay, I get it. But if it's another person and you're really struggling, and you got the second phone number off of this time you called, you might say, man, F this.
On top of dealing with depression.
Yeah, you're already depressed and anxious, right? Like, you're like, all right, not meant to be.
Yeah.
I'm done.
I can't get out of bed. I definitely can't make.
So I think that's maybe one of the more frustrating things about just kind of getting into it. Like, there's sometimes there are these barriers. But, like, once you find it, once you're able to tap into those places, like you said, like you have the opportunity to feel better.
Oh yeah.
To experience something different. Like we don't have to be stuck in that space.
Like one aspect too, if you're looking at, like I've heard a lot of people say like, oh, I don't do that because it costs money. If you are compulsively buying shit all the time because you have some trauma that you haven't dealt with, and you got like closets full of Nikes, like your problem isn't that you don't have any money. It's that you can't stop spending it. And you got to figure out why. And if you're going to spend $10 a week to avoid spending $800 a month on Jordans, it ends up, the cost benefit takes care of itself.
I feel that was a shot at me because I have a lot of shoes in my closet. But no, you're right. Like, but again, like someone saying the cost, or like my favorite thing is like, oh, I'm too busy. It's just like, no, like those are just all like defense mechanisms that say, hey, they're preventing you from getting that help.
Because you're right, like seasons of Game of Thrones didn't watch themselves. Like, who's too busy for 30 minutes to an hour out of, even if it's once every 2 weeks, like that excuse. Look at your cell phone like activity. That people are on their phones 7-8 hours a day.
So yeah, it's not about the busy, or even a lot of times even about finance. Even though finances sometimes can be tough, there's avenues to get help, even if time is restricted or even if money is restricted. There's definitely avenues to get help. But it's one of those things that, I mean, we say that about all these things. Like, oh, I don't want to work out, man, I'm too busy. I was like, you work 8 hours a day. There's other hours. But there's something internally preventing people from taking that extra step. And sometimes it takes people a while to get over that step. But once you get there,
It really does help.
Yeah, it legitimately saves people's lives.
And
like being able
one
to
thing
do
you
that.
said to me too early on, which surprised me, is that you got counseling yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, why would a counselor need to get counseling? Like, it didn't make sense.
I remember like a teacher I had in undergrad. I forget which class it was, but he was like, you know what? We're all in this field, like into this room full of like undergrad psychology kids. He's like, because we're all a little messed up.
Yeah.
It's like we all understand that this is important to get help and be able to provide people with help. And like, yeah, if you're a counselor, therapist, psychologist, like it only makes sense that we see somebody too. Like you wouldn't trust a chef who doesn't eat their own food.
Yeah.
So
or a bartender that doesn't drink.
Yeah, you'd be like, okay, like that's weird. Like you're giving me all this stuff, but you won't do any of it. So like I've definitely like reached out for help, and like you said, like I've felt better afterwards. And that's one of those things too. Like seeing a therapist doesn't mean like you're going to now be seeing this person forever, every single week, because you can't do it yourself. Like no, not at all. You go in and you get that help that you need. And in an ideal space, you're just out back there in the world because you're able to function a lot better now.
Yep.
So yeah, I've definitely found it super beneficial.
So what's some of the work that you have done? Like you've kind of had three major career positions in counseling.
Yeah. So my first gig was working at a prison. And that was definitely a little bit of a trip. One of the things they don't tell you about working at a prison is you have to go to prison every day.
Yeah.
Like, and that just the mental aspect of that, not to like discount the people who are actually living in those spaces, but like that was like emotionally draining, like just going and being in that place and like and feeling in part like incarcerated for 8-10 hours a day.
You couldn't bring your phone in.
No. Like there's definitely a lot of rules and restrictions, and all those things are all safety based, right? But I quickly figured out like, okay, this isn't the place for me long term.
What area were you focused in?
At the prison, I worked primarily with sex offender population, which was again like one of those things I feel like after first job out of school, I feel like it was actually probably the best job I could have had. Because it really pushed me to like strengthen my empathy, strengthen my compassion towards folks, and like really understand like how to work with people. And it's one of those things too, even like hearing those stories, hearing those experiences, like I feel like it toughened me up almost a little bit. So now when I'm hearing stories or being with people, like I'm not always as surprised as people might imagine.
Mm-hmm.
So it was good. It was definitely a good learning experience.
What's something that sex offenders are, I would say, probably pretty misunderstood?
Mm-hmm.
What's something that in your work you took away from that you probably hadn't thought about? Or
I think something that stood out to me, I was out with someone one time, and I told them what I did, and she got like pissed at me. Mm-hmm. Like, how could you help those people? Like, very upset. I was like, hey, like, wait a minute.
Just trying to make money.
Yeah, well, and then something I was telling her, and I picked this up working at the prison. I'm like, these people aren't in jail for life. These people are going to get out of jail. So I think the one thing is like, I found it very important to be a person to help as these people get back into the community so they're not reoffending.
Yeah.
Like the people who are working those jobs or inside correctional facilities have very important work because the majority of people in prison get out of prison.
Yeah.
So when they get out, are they going to be rehabilitated? Are they going to not commit these same offenses? Are they going to be able to contribute to society once they get out of prison? And that's how I kind of saw my role in that space. It's like,
are most of the people in those situations that have committed those offenses people that had those offenses committed towards them?
It's a mixed bag. I think there's research that says that there's truth in both. Like chances are you probably didn't grow up in the best place or the best environment. Mm-hmm. But I mean, there's evidence to say that both things can definitely be true. But yeah, it's definitely was tough work, and I realized, I think for my own, again, like how mental health plays a part in it, like my mental health was draining being in that space. And I was like, okay, I'm probably not going to make it here career wise long term, and I didn't.
One thing, it's just so hard. Like, I think it's really important to understand someone's point of view or the psychology of something. And there's no part of me that can look at a kid and think anything but that's a child, you know? And so it's so, like, the opposite of how a normal person would think. Like, was there anything that you found in that kind of helped you understand why there was such...
I don't think we have to necessarily, like, understand, like, oh, I can never see that, so I don't know how this other person can see it. It's more so, again, like, this other person committed this offense. What was going on with them? Like, what were they experiencing? Okay, how can we now make sure that those things don't happen again? Or even if they do have those same type of thoughts or urges, how do we make sure they don't act on them again? I think it can be a tricky situation if you try to fully put yourself in that, because again, like, if you don't commit those type of offenses, you really can't.
I know we can't get super specific, but is it a psychological condition? Is it a fetish? Is it like, what the hell is going on there where someone is doing that type of behavior, like, you know, public displays of nudity? Or,
I mean, it can be anything from, like, antisocial personality disorder to sex addiction. It can be a ton of different situations, even as well as just, like, socioeconomic, cultural, like, all these things, like, all play a role. Like no two stories in that space are the same. And I think a lot of the ways that, like, I want to say the media, but, like, maybe, like, movies or TV shows display it isn't generally always the case. It's not like some guy in an ice cream truck luring kids into, like, the ice cream truck, right? There's a lot of different factors that are at play with it, and I think you have to just learn it from an individual's perspective. Like, why did this person at this time commit these offenses? Like, what was going on historically for them? Drug use, mental health issues, money, like, whatever. Like, what contributed to this person's offenses? And again, like, a lot of the offenses too, they're not always like this idea, at least the people I work with, like adults abusing children. Sometimes it's adults doing these things to other adults. So yeah, it's just learning the background by each individual and learning how to help them.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you went from Monroe to Hotel California?
Yeah. There's a substance abuse treatment facility. And at the time, it was definitely
Bellevue.
In
right?
Bellevue, yeah.
It's
So
a little bit of a change.
It was a welcome change from, like, being in prison working every day to being in an office park in Bellevue with ducks and people literally in canoes.
You could bring your dog to work.
Yeah, oh yeah, I brought my dog into work.
Shout out to Riggins.
Thanks, Riggs. There are people, like, in canoes outside of my office window. Like, it was just a very different vibe.
Yeah. The food was a little bit better, I'm sure.
Oh my God, yes. Oh, that prison food, like, it did a number on me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was definitely a nice change. It was my first real deep dive into, like, the substance abuse field, and being around people who all gone through recovery at different stages of the recovery, from the clients that we had there who were really struggling with it to the staff members I was lucky enough to work with who had sometimes anywhere from months to, like, years, decades of recovery. So it was really cool to be in that space and kind of get a like, peek behind the curtain, so to speak, of, like, what it's like to be in that type of community.
What did you see any numbers around, like, recidivism with,
As far as, like, relapse and whatnot?
Yeah.
I mean,
like, and how much a recovery center impacts that? Because I've
Definitely-
always heard, like, 5% of people that try and get sober on their first try end up getting sober.
oh yeah, I would be surprised if the number's not lower than that. It's a really low number at first. And I think it speaks to, I mean, a lot of different factors. One, it's really freaking hard to get sober, especially if you have, you know, anywhere from, like, you know, a couple of years to decades worth of, like, substance abuse and living that lifestyle. it's almost silly to expect that you can go to a place for 30 days and change all that. Because you have to change not only the substances, but the environment, the way you're thinking, sometimes medication, like all these different factors play a role in it. So like, yeah, the relapse rate is definitely high. And that's for me as a person who's not in recovery, but just seeing that, like, I was devastated each time. I was like, oh, like, no, like, not him, not her. Like, how did that? But it's just like, yeah, like that's what happens. Unfortunately, and some people lose their lives because of the addiction, and that's in itself really tough.
This is kind of a mean question, but I read an article, I think it was in the Wall Street Journal, about a kid that was addicted to juuling.
Oh,
and like,
is that just cigarettes? So again, I'm old. Like when people say like juuling or vaping, I'm like, what does that mean?
It's the like electronic,
the
USB,
cigarette
type,
yeah.
Like, did you come into contact with? I mean, I'm sure at a place like this, it's an expensive rehab center, like where a kid like smoked pot one time and his parents flipped out, like he's addicted.
We
to
wouldn't
weed.
get anything like that because there's still assessments that need to go into play that have to show that like you need to be there. Like you have, they call it like the ASAM assessment. Like you have enough addiction issues that you should be in a place like this. If someone like one time got caught with some weed, probably not. But truth of the matter, at the same time, like if you got caught one time, that means you got caught one time. Yeah. It doesn't mean you used it that one time. Yeah. So we would get everything for like a mixed bag. We had some kids who, parents would flip the entire bill, and other people who have been, chronically dealing with substance use and have bounced to multiple different treatment facilities. And for whatever reason, like they've just struggled staying sober outside of those treatment facilities.
I just asked because I really don't think anybody can stop using a particular substance until they're ready.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes that doesn't mean that, like, they have to make that decision themselves right away. Like, the 30 days can create a buffer to where they get a little bit clear and they can look at that. But there are situations like, I mean, my brother went to 6 treatment places, and none of them did what, they were supposed to do or whatever. But I don't think it has any reflection on the place itself. It's the fact that he wasn't in that place. And I wonder if because you have these TV shows and, intervention, things like that like it's almost glamorized that, oh, somebody needs to get help, this is the only solution. Like, I'm not saying if you're out there drinking and think you might have a problem, just keep going until you find out. I'm
not the best advice.
There's somewhere in between where you have this pocket of people that aren't ready, and then this pocket of people that really, really have a problem, and they may have gone too far. And somewhere in the middle, I think that's where your sweet spot is, of people that they're struggling, they need to get help, they know they need to get help, and if they don't, they're going to get to a point of no return. And
it's I think it'd be one of those things, like you're right, like no person outside of the individual can keep someone sober, but like I think treatment facilities and things like this are good, or even court mandated stuff sometimes are good, because it allows you that 30 days, 90 days, so where you can hopefully start making some of those healthier decisions for yourself, as opposed to, I'm just going to try to kick it cold turkey on my own. I'm going to still live in the same exact environment, see my same exact friends, do all the things the same, but I just won't like shoot dope anymore. It's like that's not how it works. No. At least I haven't seen it work that way. So like these places like this, and I will say too, like these treatment facilities, like not all are created equal. Like, sometimes some of them are good and some of them are not so good, but each person who can be in that space and get the chance to like stay sober is, I mean, like, again, like it saves people's lives. Like unfortunately, like even some of the people I worked with in the past have passed away. And that really, really sucks, and that's how like deadly the disease of addiction is. So it's definitely not, and that's the thing with a lot of like mental health services. Like, I mean, not mental health services in itself, but just life. Like things are imperfect. But finding a solution, whether it's with recovery or mental health, that works for you is all that's going to end up mattering.
And it's not that much different from other parts of the body.
No.
Like, you're just focused on the brain. But
Yeah.
if you worked in cardiology, you would have similar experiences.
Oh, yeah.
And I guess it's sad when somebody dies of a heart attack when they're young.
Yeah.
But, like, when they're older, it's not a sob story. It's like, oh, that was too bad.
Yeah.
But it's almost like there's so much stigma around this stuff that it makes mental health seem like it's this different category, but it's just another part of.
Especially, I think, with addiction too, because I mean, so many people like use drugs and alcohol, like legal drugs and alcohol, right? So it's just like, well, it's legal. I can't be addicted to it. I'm like, people are addicted to Twinkies, man. Like, it has nothing to do with whether the U.S. Supreme Court or your state says that these things are legal or not. It still impacts you, and I think confronting that, oh crap, like I may have a problem with this, or oh crap, like maybe like this rage inside of me is because I'm really depressed or sad or have grief or trauma in my life. I think that's the part that's really tough for people, and if you have to confront that to get better, that's just a tough decision for people to make sometimes.
And I think too, like, unless you've experienced compulsive behavior in yourself, it is almost impossible to understand it in somebody else. And I remember, growing up, I didn't have any issues around compulsive behavior. And until I started having some of my own, I just always assumed it was people making a choice and being selfish. And then when you start waking up, you're like, I need that Twinkie right now. Like, and it can be so many different things. It's not about what the thing is. It's just that behavior. And the definition of compulsive is doing something that you don't want to be doing, but you're still doing.
Yeah.
And when you're in that area, when you're in crazy town like that, it is really, really hard to get out.
Yeah, like your brain doesn't know. It still hits all the same brain receptors. They don't know if is it alcohol, or is it pornography? Is it gambling? Is it shopping? Is it love and sex addiction? All those things. But so figuring out, like, okay, like this is an issue and I don't want to do this anymore. Like, how do I get help with this? And I think that really opens up to, like, even if it's something like an AA or rehab or your local therapist, whatever it is, like, as long as you're getting the help that you need, it's all that matters.
Definitely. So you left Hotel California and you're doing more just one-on-one.
Like the community mental health now, which has also been like really good because I see people in the community. Like, I see a very wide range of clients, from old to young, to a variety of different issues. And I think that it helps me like paint a picture around, like, who are these people, like, who live in this city who need help. And it's great to have like that diverse of a type of experience, because with the prison, it's one population, right? Even within the addiction field, it's one population. But now I get to see like the community. So it feels like I'm helping in a spot in the city that I really enjoy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So of the jobs that you've had so far, which one has been the hardest for you?
Hardest. I mean, I don't know if there's one in particular that's harder than the others. I think all of them have like their own unique challenges to them, and their own rewards to them too. I think maybe just the hardest part about the work itself is like people just need help, and I think that's just hard to see sometimes. Because like I'm just one person, and like each counselor's just one person. Like, we can't see or help every single person that we would like to. And I think it's just getting to the point where like you understand that, like I can only give so much. Like, it sounds super pretentious and kind of douchey, no, but like I can only give so much like each day, because I still have to be able to take care of like myself and like the people in my life. So just understanding that like, this work is kind of like not ending. And that can just be sad sometimes. But yeah, I probably think that's maybe the more difficult parts about the job.
And given that, like, where would you like to see yourself like 10 years from now? Like, what's the path that you'd like to see yourself go down?
Was it at the 2029 NBA draft? So I think that'd be pretty sweet. No, I mean, I'm like I said, like I'm going to be in this field for the long haul, and unless something starts that I have no idea about, like this is what I'm meant to do. So yeah, I'll still just hopefully be seeing individual clients on an everyday basis. Maybe in some managerial supervisory.
I don't know.
One of those words. I'm probably not made for the role if I can't say the word yet. But yeah, just being maybe one of those roles on top of that, I can hopefully see that happening in the future.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. I want to get to some of the stories that you prepared. But
prepared.
Just quickly, you got engaged recently.
Yeah.
To an awesome girl.
Yes.
Who I'm sure is listening to this right now.
I hope she is.
And is a big fan of me.
She does love you, though. She's like, Adam's like one of your friends I like. I was like, oh, which ones do you not like?
If you want to tell me that after the show, go for it. First question about that. Did you buy the ring at Shane Company?
No, man. So yeah, I got engaged to Mia on July 4th. Was it not even 3 weeks ago now? So it was awesome. Actually, I have a funny story about the ring, man. So I got the ring at Menashe and Sons in West Seattle. Mm-hmm. Going through that process, man. If anyone's done it, you know how stressful it is. But going through that process, it's like you're keeping like this secret from the person you tell everything.
Didn't know at all?
She had no idea.
Oh, wow.
She saw me one day like researching rings online.
Oh, God.
And she was like, well, what are you doing? I was like, what does it look like?
You
but
should have just played it off and been like, this is for me.
This is for my baby's mama. Like, I'm not sure.
I want to get some ice.
Yeah. So I was like, calling people, asking my friends, like, okay, what do you do? How do you go about this? And my brother told me, he's like, yeah, don't do it online, man. You don't want to do that. Like, go to some place that, like, it's in your town. Like, you can actually meet with the people. So that was actually really great advice from my brother. So I ended up going there. Like, I have no idea about this stuff, right? I'm just Googling things and watching YouTube. End up settling on a ring. Was very happy about it. And my plan was, like, I can't keep this ring that I bought in my house. Like, Mia cleans things and organizes things. I was like, anywhere I put it, she's going to undoubtedly find it.
Shout out to her for doing those
things.
things.
I mean, I clean up too sometimes. So I was like, okay, I'm going to leave the ring at the jeweler. They said that people do that all the time.
Yeah.
You can just get it when you need it. Perfect. So I had it planned out. I'm like, all right, July 4th, we're going to be on the beach. I'll pick up the ring the day before after work, get off work early, go get the ring, head to the beach that night. Get off work early, go to the jeweler. And part of me that day was like, I should probably call them just in case. Just let them know I'm coming. I should probably call. But then I thought to myself, I was like, no, man, you're just nervous, man. Like, don't trip. Like, just work, do your job. They're not going to be closed today.
Yeah. Because this is your big day.
This is my day.
Yeah.
They should know this by now, right? So I show up, and they close at 5. I show up there probably like 3:50, 4 o'clock, and the place is closed.
Oh, shit.
Like, lights off, gate down. Like, they've been closed for a while, it looks like.
Yeah.
So I just freak out. Like, I'm having a legit panic attack in my car. Like, what the fuck?
So did you just go to one of those 25-cent dispensers at the grocery store?
I had a ring pop that I've been holding on to. But no, so again, these people are in my community. So after like one of the days getting the ring, started talking to the guy, and he's like, hey, where do you live? I was like, oh, I live over there on Beach Drive. He's like, oh, so do we. And I was like, oh, I know which house you live in. I was talking to the jeweler. And in the back of my head, I kind of put that away. I was like, if something happens, I know where this guy lives.
Yeah.
So the place is closed. I get in my car, and I'm going now like 50 down in West Seattle to this person's house. And I'm just like, yeah, this isn't the best look. I'm just going to show up unannounced at this person who's more or less a stranger to me's door and is like, you need to help me.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what I did. Like, I went to his house. Luckily, he was outside talking to some people. And he recognized me, and I was like, hey, I need that ring now. Like, I'm leaving in a few hours. I need this ring. And he's like, I don't think he heard me at first. I think he said something like, oh, we can get it for you tomorrow. I was like, no. I need it like right now, like this minute. And he was an older guy. He's like, hey, man, that's my name on there, but I'm retired. Like, I don't have a key. It's like, I don't have a key to that place. Like, and everyone's gone for the holiday.
Yeah.
And I was like, but you don't understand. I need it, though.
Yeah.
So he said, give me an hour. I'll see what I can do. That was the longest hour of my life.
Oh, I'm sure.
I'm sitting there in my car trying to like listen to music podcasts.
It's the third time you've heard that J. Cole album.
Yeah. You know, it's one of those things where you try not to look at a clock and then you look back and it's like, shit, 2 minutes. He calls me back and he's like, I think I got it. I'll call you back in 30 more minutes.
Oh, God.
So at this point, also, I'm supposed to be home. I'm supposed to be home with Mia after getting off work early.
Yeah.
So I call her, or she calls me, and she's like, where are you at? Oh, there's this accident on the freeway. I'm real backed up. She's like, where's
Google Maps?
Yeah, she's like, where's the accident? He was like, oh, by the streets. It's real backed up. And she's like, oh, okay, just call me when you're done.
Yeah.
And then the guy tells me again, come back in 30 more minutes. So at this point, I'm like, I have to go home.
Yeah.
Because at this point, she'll be like, well, it doesn't take that long, no matter what the accident is. So I go home, and then she's like, well, why do you need to go back out? Oh, I got to go pick up some medication from Safeway. And I'm calling her dad, who's a doctor, and like, hey, what's like a believable medication I can pick up from Safeway that doesn't seem life-threatening, but I still would need to go get? And then I tell her that, and she's like, oh, yeah, that sounds right. I end up back at the jewelry. He calls me again. He's like, hey, all right, come to the store. Come to the back. I got in. I'll get you your ring. I walk in. He's at the safe. I'm like, hey, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Like, you saved my life. And he goes, don't thank me yet. I can't get the safe open.
Oh, God.
And he tells me straight up, he's like, I don't work here. Like, I don't go here, open the safe. Like, I'm retired. Like, I don't do this. So it's another, like, it was probably like 10 minutes. It felt like an hour.
Oh, yeah.
In the jewelry store as he's like messing around and getting this safe open. He finally calls one of the other women that work there, and she's able to open it and gives me the ring. So this is probably like a 2.5 hour kind of time frame. And I was like, this is the most stressful part of this entire engagement experience. But I got the ring. Went down to the beach the next day at sunset on the beach, like proposed. She said yes. I don't know why, but she said yes. So it was everything after getting the ring, even getting the ring itself. Like, it all ended up as perfectly as possible.
Yeah.
And like those folks at Menashe's and Sons out in West Seattle, like, I can't thank them enough. Like, if anyone ever asks me like where I should get an engagement ring from, I'm going to point them in that direction. Cause like he took care of me. Cause he could have said, get the hell off my front lawn.
Yeah.
I don't work there right now.
Yeah.
But he went that
And
extra.
it's a holiday.
And it's a holiday, like, get lost. But he went that extra mile to like really help. So I'm super appreciative for that.
And if they want to sponsor this show, they're
mean,
more than welcome to after that story.
All right.
All right. So you got a couple stories that you wanted to tell. Gangnam Style in Korea.
Oh, yeah. So I lived in Korea for a little over 3 years. And actually, that song came out.
And wait, before we move on, congratulations on getting engaged.
Thank
I
you.
didn't say that at the end.
Thank you. Wedding planning stuff now. So, yeah, if there's any people who want to plan the wedding for us,
Sounds terrible.
We're more than, me and I are in lockstep with that. Like, someone else wants to do all the work, like, we'll just show up.
I don't understand that super sweet 16 shit where it's just
it's much easier when you're rich. Like, planning a wedding when you're rich is probably really fun and super easy. When you're not rich, it's like seems just more stressful than it.
I don't like details very much, man. Like it seems like that's all it is.
I think it's a lot of like, definitely have to read the fine print. Even just like we started looking into different venues. It's like, oh, this place it's 6,000. It's like, well, that doesn't include the air you're going to breathe when you're there, or the water, or each ice cube,
cups and the utensils, and the color coding.
Oh, y'all wanted to eat? Y'all wanted to. You didn't say you wanted to eat. That's actually $20,000.
And I just don't understand the brain that like when they see all that stuff, it's like a joyous experience. I get to pick every level of this. Like
I'm telling you, if you have unlimited income, that seems awesome.
But even still, like I would pay a 30 to 40% premium just to not have to do any of it, because it just none of it sounds fun.
It's definitely going to be some work, and we've made a mindful effort to like, let's work some of the time and then just enjoy being engaged the other parts of the time.
Do you have an idea for honeymoon though?
I mean, somewhere nice. Somewhere nice. I think we're open to really kind of anything. Probably somewhere in Europe, Italy, Greece.
That'd be sick.
Yeah.
Go see Giannis's family.
Yeah, former Soviet Union maybe. I heard Chernobyl was a big hit after this year, so maybe hit that up. Yeah.
Are you gonna do an ebony and ivory themed cake?
They probably will, which would be unfortunate if they just showed up with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, there's so many details that go along with it. I think detail or first step is just going to be finding a place.
Yeah.
And then everything after that feels, and again, I'm a novice with this. Everything after that feels like it will just fall into place.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
All right, so back to Korea.
Yeah, so I worked there and taught there for about 3 years. And that song came out, I think, like 2 or 3 months after I moved. I was kind of pissed. I was like, that would have been a hit. But it was definitely a really fun experience. And I think, like, the thing and the people there and the culture there was, like, just so beautiful and so welcoming. I remember the first maybe it must have been, like, the first week or so or 2 weeks or so I was there. There's a basketball court behind my apartment building. So one of the first purchases I think I made there was getting a basketball so I can just like, kill time playing basketball on my weekend. So I remember being out there just by myself shooting. This is when I can still, dunk. So like shooting, dunking by myself on this little half court, and this guy and his son who was maybe 7 or 8 were watching me.
Yeah, because you didn't stick out at all as a 6'2" black guy in Korea.
And this was living in a very like rural part of the country. Like it wasn't like in the middle of the city or anything else. This is like kind of on the outskirts. And like they're just watching me play basketball, and like I'm making like a jump shot. And like, whoa, wow, good job. I was like, hell yeah. Like people here are way nicer than in America. Like they appreciate good form on a jumper.
It's funny, like your reaction to that stuff is always so funny to me, because mine would be like, oh, I feel insecure, like these people are watching you. It's just pumping you up.
Yeah, I felt great, like because they were very impressed, like left-handed layup. They're like, oh. I was killing. I was like, I'm about to give these people a dunk the basketball. They're cheering, they're so happy, and I'm just like, yo, like, this is great. So afterwards, like I'm sitting down, I forget what I was doing. The dad and the son come up and give me a Pocari Sweat, which basically is like Korean Gatorade. And he was like, hey man, good job. And gave me like this Gatorade. I was like, yo, I'm never leaving.
Yeah.
Like this is exactly what I came here for
Awesome.
for my basketball skills to be appreciated like this. But yeah, man, it was a really great experience. Like the friends and stuff that I made there, I think I've been in 3 different wedding parties from the people I met there. So it was really dope.
That's awesome. And the next one, you got a story, Ball is Life, NBA and culture of basketball.
Oh. So yeah, I guess the thing that just still confuses me, I feel like I'm an old soul in a very like new aged NBA. Like everything from like the Instagram to Twitter and stuff like that. Like I understand it, but like I don't get it. Like it just seems like these dudes get into trouble way more than they get money or publicity from any of those things,
which has been consistent. Like it's just now there's visibility of it, but can you imagine in the 90s? Like,
well, that's the thing, right? Like if people really knew like the type of dude like Jordan was, like no one would probably like Jordan the same way.
They wouldn't be wearing his shit.
Yeah, I mean, I got Jordan shoes on today, but like people really knew like behind the scenes of like what it was. They wouldn't. I think they'd be upset. So I think even now when these guys are like even flexing their muscles around being on TV or having their own brands or all this type of stuff, like all these new age guys, blah blah blah. It's like no, like we can just do it now. In the past, none of these guys could be their own brand or do their own thing. They were just kind of, you're just employees. Now, like, they are the show, and I think that's the part of the culture around basketball, which I appreciate. It's like, yeah, I don't have to be in your movie. I'll make my own damn movie.
And that's not just a basketball thing. That's a just business thing in general. Like, any form of entertainment has become pretty decentralized by just the availability of video. Like,
it's crazy.
The fact that, I mean, when we were younger, you'd have to get a camcorder and record stuff and then put it together on a VCR tape.
Yeah.
And then you could share that with maybe a couple of friends.
Yeah. And that took weeks at a time to like put all that together,
you'd have to take it in someplace and deal with some creepy guy that was looking at everybody's pictures.
So that's the thing that's crazy. That it makes me think about like the whole Space Jam thing and people like getting on LeBron. Like, LeBron's having such a tough time getting people in his movie. Jordan didn't have a tough time. It's like none of those guys had an Instagram account back in 94, 95. Like, that was the only way Sean Bradley was going to be famous, was to be in that movie. That was the only way any of those guys are going to be on anyone's screen.
I can't believe Sean Bradley was in that movie. He's got to be the most boring professional athlete.
But again, like, he was, other than just being tall, no one would know who Sean Bradley was.
No.
But now, being in Space Jam is not going to make any of those guys any more famous. They're all plenty famous as is. So, like, there's not that same need for, like, why does Steph need to be in that movie?
Yeah.
It's plenty famous.
The gatekeepers, there aren't gatekeepers anymore.
Yeah.
Like, Disney had all that, visibility, and they got to choose who it was and all that shit. And now it's like, if Disney doesn't want to do the movie, we'll just make it on our own.
Yeah, easily. Like, I can walk into a room and get this movie made other places. So
it's like those Netflix movies. Like, a lot of them are like that Bird Box movie. Not good.
Oh, don't slander Bird Box in front of me. Not my girl Sandra.
I mean, I like Sandra. In the proposal, she was, but it's almost like the bar for the quality of movies has gone down. Like the plot writing, and it's just get the content out.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much stuff though, right? Like, I mean, we have Hulu, HBO, Amazon,
this
Netflix.
podcast.
Yeah, like there's stuff that's like unlimited stuff, right? So it's not about making like a great movie. Like, you're right. Like, you just need to have a movie, and like, unless it's a superhero in it, like, there's not going to be really too much publicity or people watching it.
Yeah. There was one other thing I wanted to talk about, just story-wise. You and I started playing basketball together, I don't know, what, 6 years ago?
2012. No, it's 2012.
7 years?
Mm-hmm.
We spent a decent amount of time at Green Lake Park.
Oh, yeah.
And one particular Saturday, we met someone.
Clarence!
Do you want to explain?
Oh, maybe
we can kind of do it together because it's a little foggy for me.
That's still one of my. I haven't been to Green Lake to play basketball in so long because, again, the age and my old bones. But
and explain just to people.
So if you haven't been out to Green Lake, like, Green Lake is a nice, like, warm, welcoming park with a lake in the middle.
A lot of people drinking Starbucks.
Yeah, a lot of Starbucks and sandals with socks and people just kind of doing their thing.
Cargo shorts.
Yeah. It's very hipster friendly, but the basketball courts in Green Lake do not represent that vibe at all. It's people.
The antithesis.
It's people like hooping hard
and people watching hard. Like, there are 40s being drinking.
Yeah,
there's
a lot of marijuana smoke in the air,
and it's been that way.
Radio,
whether it was legal or not.
Yeah, it's a different vibe, and I loved it. Like when I found that court, I remember going there like every weekend, every other weekend. I was like, this is perfect. Like this is the exact place
And
I
that
want to
same
play
day-
basketball.
That same day that we went, I remember, like, just to give you a sense of the vibe, there was a guy, like, Seattle and San Francisco have had contentious vibes for football for a long time. And there was a guy wearing all 49ers shit.
Shout out Niners fans, what's up?
And head to toe, this guy was in Niners shit. And my dumbass went up to him and just jokingly said, like, man, you're brave for being out here wearing all that. And he just turns and looks at me and he goes, you're brave for saying that shit to me. And I couldn't agree with him more. It was one of the dumbest things I've ever
This is
done.
at the peak of like the Niners Seahawks rivalry too. Like,
I don't know if somebody has been shot at Green Lake, but I have to imagine with the number of barbecues that happen and there's just a party outside of the game being played.
yeah, it's a definite vibe, and like I love that vibe. Like
There's one court, if you lose,
you're done.
you're either going home or you're getting cold.
Yeah.
Because you're waiting 6 games.
Yeah, it's get there early. I would just say that. Make sure you get there early. So yeah, that day we're playing.
We got teamed up with this guy.
Yeah, we're teaming with this guy, so it's this guy.
He was probably 40
older,
years old.
Yeah, older black dude, still in good shape. We had a couple other guys on their team of 5.
Pretty sure he was in jeans.
Was he? I just remember
His gear was not.
It wasn't Nike Plus.
No. If it was like, discount.
He was making
outlet shit.
He was making some plays, and he would have a pass, and somebody would make a basket. He's like, "There you go, Clarence," and I was just like, "Oh, dang, okay." And then like somebody would make a shot. There you go, Clarence. Go ahead, Clarence.
And then I remember I was on a fast break with him, and he passed the ball away, and it went out of bounds. He's like, "Damn it, Clarence!" And I finally look at you, and I'm like, "Is he fucking talking to himself?" And you look at me, and you're like, "Of course, yeah. Absolutely." He's been doing the whole game. Like, it took me like at least. I don't know. We played 3 games with him. I was like, who the fuck is Clarence?
I thought I think it was like a taller white dude on our team, and I just thought he was Clarence that entire time. And I was like, man, he's really getting on Clarence.
Yeah, no, it confused the shit out of me. And I've never played with anybody besides one other guy. He's a former NFL player, and he says his own name to himself, and I'm like, he can call himself whatever the fuck he wants. He played in the NFL.
That's on some Ricky Henderson type of stuff, though, to be yelling at yourself in the third person in a basketball
It was
game.
pretty incredible.
It's still like every time I meet a person named Clarence since then, I just laugh.
And
They have no idea why it brings me so much joy that their name's Clarence.
And whenever we played after that, if one of us started heating up in a game,
Oh, there you go, Clarence.
yeah, we'd just start yelling Clarence at people, and people would just look at us like crazy people.
Oh, shout out to that guy Clarence, man. I hope he's at Green Lake today, just getting buckets.
It's a good day for. We should have gone over there.
I have retired from outdoor basketball, maybe with the exception of 1 or 2 more hoop fests in my future.
Yeah.
But yeah, my bones just can't take being on the pavement like that.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've gone through a lot of shit today. I just have one kind of follow-up question for you.
Mm-hmm.
If you could play any NBA player from any era, one-on-one,
Oh man.
who would it be, why, and what is the projected outcome of a game to 11 points?
Game to 11. You know what? I'm just gonna go at the GOAT. I think I'd play Mike, but I wouldn't do it to 11. I would say first basket wins, and then shame him into giving me the first shot.
Yeah. And what would you do, though?
Oh, I'd make the shot.
But how? Like, post it up?
Oh,
Or-
no. As soon as he passes the ball to me, I'm just letting it rip, because I think if he gets close to me, he's going to steal the ball or trip me.
So you're banking it in, basically.
Yeah, and I'm
you
just
have to release so fast.
I'm just hoping that I just have like an Air Bud type of shot, and it just miraculously goes in, because then Mike turns into just a degenerate and doesn't let me leave until he wins, and then I just walk off anyway.
So you get a second game out of it.
I make him beg for a second game, and I just leave, and he'll just be pissed off for the rest of his days,
That's
like
not
thinking
bad.
about that time that very out of shape older dude beat me in basketball
At Green Lake Park and called himself Clarence.
Yeah, and I called him Clarence and then walked off, and just would love to just see him that mad.
Oh man, that's actually pretty good. I thought you were gonna say Hakeem.
No, I'd just be like, just give me an autograph, man. Let's go to lunch.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to play.
Share a
Like,
salad.
yeah, let's just go to lunch, hang out. Like, but Mike, I think just beating him and just knowing what a degenerate he is, he just wouldn't be able to let it go. He'd be
No.
showing up at my house 2 a.m. with the
Yeah.
ball, like, one more game, man. I can't go out like this. I was like, no, you're on one.
That's awesome. Well, dude, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah,
Really
man, thanks for
appreciate
having
it.
me.
Thanks everybody for listening, and we're gonna leave you with Jaga.
I just make the waves, I don't write them. I can hear the lyrics in my spirit as I write them. Why you wanna walk and talk just like them? I can't get caught up in all the hype and the excitement. I just make the waves, I don't write them. I can hear the lyrics in my spirit as I write them. Why you wanna walk and talk just like them? I can't get caught up in all the hype and the excitement. My wave pool, my wave pool. Welcome to 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 my wave